You know, it's like to wake up every day and be missing parts of your day in life. This is what people who suffer from dissociative identity disorder, or otherwise known as DID, experience every day. This topic should be important to you because even though it is a rare mental disorder, you may know someone who may be suffering. Dissociative identity disorder is a rare mental health condition that causes someone to have multiple personalities. It was formerly called split personality disorder. To illustrate this, we'll look at what causes DID and what DID is, treatments that can help, and how you can support someone who has been diagnosed with DID. First off, we'll talk about what DID is and what causes it. So the definition of DID, told by a clevelandclinic.org article titled Dissociative Identity Disorder, that was last reviewed by a medical professional on May 25, 2021, states that DID is a mental health condition that causes someone to have multiple distinct personalities. Different identities control a person's behavior at different times. So they do have a switch, and one switches in while the other one switches out, and they sometimes lose their sense of time, and it's called amnesia, and they usually lose time and their thoughts because they don't remember the switch. But over time, therapy can help them get the amnesia to close, so that way they can remember and know who's switching when and how long they've been in and how long they've been out. Or called fronting, is like depending on which alter is in the front. But now let's talk about like what causes the ID. Childhood trauma, such as physical and sexual abuse. A NAMI.org article titled Dissociative Disorders with no known publication date or author states that childhood trauma such as physical or sexual assault can cause DID. Different personalities, or alters as they call them, are a way to distance themselves from trauma they have experienced. They usually create alters for different traumas that they have, and there can be trauma holders, or there can be protectors, and sometimes their mind creates people that they think that they need at the time, and they're just different. Alters are just different personalities that someone with DID has, and they can have anywhere from 2 alters to over 100, and most likely there's like 13 by the end of like treatment. But next we'll discuss the treatments that can help someone with DID. Treatments that can help are therapy. You can talk about past traumas. Working through those past traumas with a therapist can help tremendously. There is no cure for a DID, but this can help the alters merge into fewer. Because if, let's say, you have like 10, you can talk about your traumas and merge those 2 alters into 1. So like if you have 2, go in 1, or you can do even 5 into 1. And the goal is to get as few alters as possible. Now there is no cure, but you can get it to where you can understand or like remember what happened with the other alters while the other ones are fronting. But merging alters as a way to bring the number of alters down to a few. Ken hosts the .org article titled Full Merging, Unification, Alter Integration, Terminology, Controversy, and Issues with no known publication date or author, states that there are occurrences when alters can merge into 1. There can also be spontaneous merges that happen on the mind's own and merge 2 or more alters together. They may lose some memory, but they have the traits from the 2 different personalities. So they know that the 2 personalities, they have their own traits, but then when they merge, they mix the traits together, and they can become 1 or multiple alters. Sometimes they do split and become 1 becomes 2 or 3, or could even be even more. Just depends on the mind itself. But another way for treatment is like prevention. But I mean, prevention of DID is hard to do because of the abuse of a child is hard to prevent. The only way to prevent DID would just to notice the signs early on. It's not really prevention, it's just to help get them help as soon as possible. Lastly, let's look at how you can support someone who has been diagnosed with DID. You can support someone with who was diagnosed with DID by researching what DID is, the causes, symptoms, and any way that you can help them and support them in any way. You can go to counseling with them. A lot of therapists have they're family counseling, so they allow the family to come in, but some therapists do not because it can trigger the patient and cause them to go even deeper into their DID. But let's recap. Dissociative identity disorder is a rare mental health condition that causes someone to have multiple personalities. We illustrated this by discussing what causes DID, treatments that can help, and how you can support someone with DID. I hope everyone leaves here knowing a little bit more about DID and how you can help someone who has been diagnosed. Now this is a chart that shows the number of clients with anxiety, dissociative personality disorder, and the years. that they were diagnosed. So as you can tell, there is only 1.5% of the population that has been diagnosed with DID. But I hope everybody does leave here with just a little bit more knowledge about DID.